Welcome back to the channel. This is JC with Team Empire, and today I'm going to be going over the 5 decks that have been converting the best in Springfest since March. So as you know, there's been a ton of results for Springfest that we haven't really gone over, which, you know, everyone's busy living their own life, playing their own games. So I thought that rather than going over all the events we missed, for Premium, we're going to go ahead and just talk about which decks have been doing the best overall. And that's something we can do thanks to Vanguard Paradox. Before we get into that, though, I want to go over our sponsor. Our sponsor for the video, if I can get the freaking mouse to... There we go. All right, our sponsor is My Metal Cards. It's this really cool small business that makes these laser engraved markers and tokens and really nice cards overall. If you scroll down here, you'll see a variety of energy generators and energy crests, like this Minerva one, like this Petralka one, Tamiyura, and so on and so forth. Also, if you scroll all the way down, you'll see that one of their first items were nation and clan cards, if you just want like a cool field center or token. So very, very cool. If you purchase one of these, you can use the code EMPIRE for $5 off. Okay, so I think these are really cool products. Even if you don't play Vanguard, I think this could be used as like a field center or a token, and it's a really good gift to give to someone if you have a friend that like really likes card games. So My Metal Cards, code EMPIRE, $5 off. Back to results. So today we're going to be using Vanguard Paradox, and in case you've never navigated this site, you can actually filter what decks have been doing, have had the most tops. So if we go over here to decks, and since today we're talking about Premium, we're going to click Premium. It'll show you at first, you know, filter by date all time. It'll show you which decks, since the website has gone up, have been topping the most. So this is of all time. As you can see, Narukami has the most amount of tops total over all the different clans and decks. But we're going to go ahead and filter for the past 3 months, since we have had 3 months of Springfest events. Like I said, we're going to be going over the top 5 converting decks today, and kind of comparing that to my previous predictions before Springfest started. All right, so starting with number 5, Bermuda Triangle, specifically Highlander. Notice how in the results it tells you the exact type of deck, not just the clan. So what is Highlander, in case you're still unaware? Highlander, as it says in its name, is a strategy that plays one-ofs of all the normal units in your deck except for reindeer, and sometimes one-ofs of triggers. And in my tier list video, I put this in A tier, which made some people upset, because a lot of people know how strong this deck can be. Like, off of reindeer, if you see powerful cards like Laura or Olivia or a Nesca going first, then you probably win. It becomes a very, very strong snowballing high roll turn that your opponent, most decks cannot handle, even if with heal guards or like the extra tickets and stuff. And going second, this deck can hold its own too, but the biggest reason why I didn't put this deck in S tier is because you are going to have a lot of games where you don't get those mega high roll turns. And so you can still have someone piloting Highlander and have those, like, let's say, middle of the pack games and win. But the only time you're feeling that like S tier power is when you're hitting, again, like everything like Pearl Sisters, Laura. If you're able to go into Heltrata, like you have the hand size for it, then you're probably winning. But again, it doesn't surprise me that this is one of the decks that's converting the most, because it's also a very popular deck. If you've ever played Highlander, it's actually a lot of fun, like having this lottery feeling, and you have to be a really good player to convert as much of your luck into skill as you can. And that's something we actually talk about a lot, but like Jack and I talk about a lot. How much are you able to convert your luck into actual skill? So Highlander taking the 5th spot doesn't surprise me at all. I think it's a very, very good deck. Number 4. Now on the site, unfortunately, when you go back, unless I'm just like missing something, you do have to redo the filter. So back to the past 3 months. Number 4 is Mega Colony Gridora. Now this one surprises me a little bit. because I guess this deck's success is completely dependent on how people were going to treat that premium seed going into the tournament. You know, a lot of people, when they're on teams of 3, will say, let's bring the best deck from each format, and a lot of people will say, let's bring like 2 of the best deck, and I'll bring like a rogue pick. That way we still have like a chance of converting. And so Gridorra is going to do well whenever it goes into those matchups, people bringing their fun picks or their rogue picks or their like really good decks that auto lose to Gridorra. And I have some people at locals talk to me about how like this deck can hold its own even if it's not like auto winning, and that is true. However, the majority of your turns are just going to be going into this, go to do 4 to 5 attacks, pass turn. And a lot of decks can actually do a lot if they're pushed into a long game in Premium as opposed to Standard. You know, it's in a format like Standard, once you get to a late game, if you don't have CB, most of the time you can't do anything. Whereas in Premium, a lot of people's G zones have more toolbox than in the other formats because there's so many, the card pool's larger. So it doesn't completely surprise me that Gridorra's doing well. The other thing is, other than auto-winning in certain things, because it's teams, you can have people carry you up into the top 8 and in top 4 and even in first place. Like over here you see Global. Let's actually go back to the results. So it says here, in the past 3 months, Gridorra has received 3 top 8s, 5 top 4s, and 2 first place, for a total of 10 tops. So take that how you will. I know someone from my locals, actually it's Xavier, who really enjoyed playing this deck, and I'm sure his skill overall did increase the efficacy of this deck. So, bit of a surprise to me, but good for the Gridorra players, I guess. Now, number 3 doesn't surprise me at all. Number 3, we have Neonectar, Katrina. Now, I'm actually really happy for Neonectar because this is a clan that, like, prior to Katrina coming back was literally like bottom tier, and then one card just completely like skyrocketed the clan back to an efficient deck. And the reason is Neonectar has always been good at like rushing early, but then didn't have the advantage later. Whereas with Katrina, you know, you commit your hand, you get a really good early rush turn, and then you either going second stride into this, or you superior stride, and then you get a lot of those cards back, you get advantage back. You call things like in Largolf now, like if we go to English deck stats, you'll probably see usage of in Largolf going up. And if you're like, what is that card? It's actually a standard card, which it should be here. I've seen people playing it. Oh, Inlet Pulse. I didn't know Inlet Pulse was being used in decks. It's pretty cool. You can call that off of Katrina. And I'm actually not seeing a Largolf, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe none of these lists were playing them. But there's 2 different types of Katrina lists that have been popular in Springfest. One of them, I think almost all the lists run the superior striding Asha, but then some decks run Cecilia. Where's Cecilia? Because I know there was a top in Houston where we were that, okay, well this is not the place to look. But regardless, this doesn't surprise me at all. Katrina was in my like S tier ranking going into the format, and it's just a very strong mid-range deck that continues to like have good turns, and you pretty much just spam Katrina until you win, which isn't shitting on Katrina players because it's a very powerful deck. It's not just like it's not auto win by any means, but it does scale very well thanks to cards like Anelma, thanks to cards like, again, Inlet Pulse and Largolf. Horticulture Elf helps this deck's consistency a lot. Yeah, so this doesn't surprise me at all as a 3rd place. Yeah, a lot of teams this is also a very popular deck in Europe. Like a lot of French teams play this deck and do really well with it. Number 2, Grand Blue, specifically Night Rose. This deck is super popular and also really, really good. The deck is basically solved at this point thanks to committed players like, different YouTubers and WCC members play this deck a lot. And the card that really skyrocketed this clan it's got to be here. Yeah, it was Forbidal Surrogate, because basically it turns your big Obadiah turns into your first stride into like a really good turn that it lets you thin like 7 to 8 cards from deck and get a lot of superior calling going on. And a lot of people already know what this clan does. The thing is, it got a huge boost from two things, being Forbidal and from the superior stride stuff. So this doesn't surprise me at all. It was again one of my predictions as an S tier clan going into the event. It does struggle a little bit against things like Gridora, but cards like Bad Bounty help that matchup, and it struggles a little bit into stuff like Shiranui too, which we're going to talk about later. But this is a deck that if you have a lot of experience in Vanguard and a lot of play testing, then this is a deck that can almost make it out of any situation because of how versatile it is. Really cool deck, really popular too, so it completely makes sense why this is doing as well as it is. I think it's actually been converting better in the past 2 months than at the start of Springfest too, so very cool. Now, going on to the number one converting deck, we have Shiranui, and this also doesn't surprise me. In my head, I was like, this is best deck going into Springfest, because right when Springfest started, we got the Stride deck sets for Standard, and so pretty much any Shiranui build you'll see will have the crest in it, which you create by riding... Where is he? I know he's here. Where's Seizui? I know y'all know who Seizui is, but... Okay. This obviously doesn't show everything, but... by riding the grade 1, you get the crest, and this deck basically has 2 really good grade 1s. It has Seizui and it has Unin. And so... The thing is, this deck also, there's also 2 different ways of playing this. I've seen people, like, for example, in my list back in March, I didn't play any restanders because I was mostly concerned about just being able to proc Mizukaze as much as possible. And then there's some people that go full restander, no Mizukaze, because they don't want to brick on him early, and they just want to have a really solid, like, huge multi-attack turn, because that's one of the big benefits to the restander strategy is if you get into Rene efficiently, you kind of just annihilate your opponent. Like, they get their dominated swings, and then you swing with your restanders, and then if your opponent is having disruption, those restand, and it snowballs pretty well. My biggest issue with the restander thing, which you might have already heard my thoughts, is I was mostly concerned about disruption coming from places like Grand Blue or even Pale Moon, but I think both decks are doing well, and obviously the restander one is converting better than people think. I think it's due to a lack of testing, because this deck does have its weaknesses. Like, it can get damage denied if you're not playing effective counterchargers. It can also just brick. Like, if you brick on, if you don't see a grade 1, you're having a bad time. If you play Mizukaze and it's the only grade 3 you see, you're having a bad time. If you don't see good ride targets like Shoujo Doji, you're having a bad time. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I literally said in the tier list this is the best deck. The one thing that I neglected to play that I should have played was Tsukumoto-kan, because with restanders, this card is actually insane. Because even if you can't get like a solid Rene turn, you can go into this guy, rip your opponent's hand, and then just do a bajillion attacks against them. So that's something I should have played going into Houston. But anyway, yeah, I don't think anyone's surprised about this being the best deck, and I also don't think anyone's very happy about it. This is a deck that I could see getting hit in more than one way. Like, I think Mizukaze definitely needs to be banned, for sure, and I've already said that in the past. But I could also see some sort of, like, choice restriction, maybe Forbidal, maybe a restander, because I think this deck's pretty dang good. Like, a little too good to be ignored. But anyway, that was it. It was not a very long video. I just wanted to go to see how the format was looking, especially since Springfest is almost over. With the conclusion of Springfest, I think we will see the new premium deck sets come out. And from that, we have Royal Paladin, Shadow Paladin, and Neo Nectar. I haven't actually tested against or with any of those decks, but I do think, I think out of all of those, the two best decks to invest into would be like Royals and Neo, because they have really valuable reprints, and those are also very fast strategies. So maybe that's something we'll talk about next time. But for now, let me know your thoughts on the Springfest season, and if let me know your thoughts about what's doing well, what's not doing well. If you've played in Springfest, let me know how you did. I would love to read those comments. And that's it. Be on the lookout for more content in the future. Thank you and bye.